Hey folks, welcome to the channel, and today's video is a bit of a change from my regular videos. Those of you who have been here before will undoubtedly have already realized. But recently I've been playing a lot of GTA Online, and like most people who play it, I've been needing money and I don't really want to buy shark cards, and I've only just realized how lucrative the Cayo Perico heist can be. When it first came out, I really didn't enjoy it. I was so used to the Diamond Casino heist that when I went into the Cayo Perico one with its new scoping mechanics and not being allowed to be seen, coupled with the fact that the first time you do it there's a lot of tedious cutscenes and it drops you in a terrible location on the island, I never really gave it a second chance. But recently I've tried it again, and I've now just seen how much money you can make in such a short time. So with that said, over the next few videos I'm going to show you the methods I use to make this heist as pain-free as possible. I will be assuming that you've already done the Cayo Perico heist for the first time, as every other time after that you start in a much better location, the scoping is so much easier when you know what to do, and it just becomes an absolute cakewalk. So without further ado, let's get into it. Like I said, I'm going to assume that you've already done the heist at least once, so you'll already have access to the Casaca, but there are two upgrades you're going to want to consider getting. The first one are the guided missiles. They'll only help you on one of the prep missions, and they're 1.9 mil. They are really fun to use, but they're definitely not imperative, and you can certainly get by without them, so don't make a beeline for them. Pick them up when you've got some extra cash. The second upgrade for the Casaca is the Sparrow, the moonpool vehicle. It's just over $1.8 million, and you will also want the guided missiles upgrade for $240,000, so it comes in at just over 2 mil. The reason I recommend it is it's a very quick vehicle. You can launch it straight from the Casaca and it will get you from there to wherever you need to go for the prep mission and back again. And the great thing is, as you approach the Casaca, provided you're low enough and you're pretty much directly over it, you can mash the right D-pad to just land straight in the Casaca. You don't have to worry about blowing it up or just dumping it in the water, because you can just land it straight there, so it's very handy. Next up is the Oppressor Mark II, the Griefer's vehicle of choice. It is over $3.8 million, and it's 2.9 if you can get it for the trade price. You're also going to want to get the missiles upgrade for it as well. In order to get that, however, you're also going to need a terabyte, which is $1.3 million, and the vehicle workshop for the terabyte, which is almost $500,000. So it comes in total at almost $6 million. Yes, it's very fast. It's not as fast as the Sparrow. Its upsides are that you don't have to find a big place to land it. You can just sort of get there, drop down and get off. But for the sake of what's going to be almost $4 million difference, the Sparrow will get you exactly what you need before you ever have the Oppressor. So if you don't have either of them, go for the Sparrow first. It's the cheaper option and it will do just as well. If you don't have either of those vehicles and you're a little bit strapped for cash to start with, then buy the armored Kuruma from Southern San Andreas Super Autos. It is $698,000 or $525,000 if you get the trade price. It's really heavily armored, it's completely bulletproof, it's very fast and it handles very well. The only downside is you can't shoot out of the back of the car, but you can still shoot out of the front, and for the missions that you do need to shoot people and you can stay in the vehicle, it's going to do you well enough that you can get from A to B and not have too much hassle. So definitely get that if you're a bit strapped for cash. The last vehicle is the Phantom Wedge, and this is going to come in handy for one prep mission. It is over $2.5 million, and in order to buy it, you will also need a CEO office, the cheapest of which is $1 million, and a vehicle warehouse, the cheapest of which is $1.5 million. So it all comes in at just over $5 million. Again, you're only going to be using it for one prep mission, so maybe don't make a beeline straight for it, because you can make do without. There are ways around it, but when you can afford it, definitely get it, because it makes that one prep mission that we'll use it for trivial. With all of that out the way, let's now move on to actually scoping out Cayo Perico Island. To get things started, go over to your planning board in the Casaca and interact with it, and then click on Gather Intel. You'll be given a location to go to out of a choice of about 5. Go over to this chair in the corner and click on Fast Travel, and just choose the location that's nearest to the location that it's telling you to go to. When the cutscene ends, use your chosen vehicle to get to the destination that you've been given. If you don't have access to the Sparrow or the Oppressor, you'll need to leave the Kasaka and then request a dinghy through your interaction menu, then go down to Services, then to Kasaka, and there'll be an option to request a dinghy, which will spawn nearby, so you just need to jump into that and take it to the nearest bit of dry land, preferably with a road nearby, and then call your mechanic and get whichever land vehicle you want to use. Once you arrive at your destination, be very careful if you are using the Sparrow or the Oppressor, as your guided missiles will take a lock onto one of the guys near the plane. Do not use the rockets. You run a huge risk of damaging the plane. If not blowing it up completely, then definitely damaging the engine to the point where if it does take off, you'll be lucky. And even if it does, the engine will probably cut out after about a minute and you're going to have to start the mission over again. Once you get there, there'll be 5 guys near the plane. Just take them all out with whichever weapon you prefer to use. Once you've done that, you'll be free to jump in the plane and fly it over to Cayo Perico. After what will most likely be an incredibly long flight to the southernmost point of Los Santos, you'll be treated to a cutscene where you land at Cayo Perico and then get frisked by the guard. It doesn't matter where you go at the airstrip here, the guard won't raise the alarm no matter what you do. Nothing is off limits, so you can explore as much as you like. But head into this hangar and head straight for the back here. Behind this fenced off area just in front of me here is the first 2 locations where you might find secondary loot. They'll both be on the desks behind the fence. However, you will need to take a photo and send it to Pavel, but you cannot take a wide angle photo and get both desks in the shot, as it will still only tag 1 piece of loot. So to be on the safe side, just make sure you take an individual photo of each piece of loot as you come across it, and that will ring true across the entirety of the island, so don't forget to take a photo of everything. Once you're done, head around here, past these boxes with the blue tarp over them, and behind this stack of tires. Head up the ladder and all the way to the back of the walkway that this leads to. There will be another fenced off area just here where there is another 2 locations where secondary loot may appear. So whatever's there, again, take a photo, send it across to Pavel, and once you've taken these 2 photos, you'll be done with the hangar in the airstrip. After you're done in the hangar, just run straight across the airstrip and head towards this cluster of buildings over here. This will be where you're looking for the last 2 pieces of secondary loot that can spawn at the airstrip. So head around the back of these buildings and into this shed here, and behind this fenced off area right in front of us are the last 2 locations where you may find secondary loot at the airstrip. I often do hope there's not going to be good loot behind here for reasons I'll go into when we cover the heist, but whatever might be here, take a photo so you know what's there. Once you've taken a photo of these 2 pieces of loot, you're done at the airstrip and you'll be ready to leave. To exit the airstrip, just grab this bike and head under the archway. As you exit, head left of this water tank and go through the gap between these 2 trees. Our next location is going to be the North Dock, so we're going to just be sticking to the coastline to get there. This will keep us out of the way of any potential guards, cameras and trucks that might see us, and the boats in the water won't detect you either, so you'll be safe from everybody coming this way. As you approach this section though, be very careful not to cut across it, as it is quite deep in places and it can drown your bike. So we'll be coming up to the North Dock in just a few moments, and you should see there is now a guard appeared on the minimap to our right, which is where we're going to be turning in. So be very careful not to turn right in front of him or so close to him that he hears the engine noise of the bike, because if you do that, you will be alerted and you'll be sent back to the airstrip. We'll be heading into this shed that we parked behind, so keep an eye on your minimap, and more specifically this guy. When he turns around, you'll be free to move. So once he's turned, just run past this bush and around the side here, past this shipping container. Keep heading around and there'll be an open door in the shed. So just walk in, and behind this fence is the first 2 locations of any secondary loot that might be here at the North Dock. So as you did at the airstrip, just take a photo of whatever's in there and send it across to Pavel. Once you're done, just head out the way you came in, and instead of heading back towards the bike we left behind, we'll be heading behind this little hut here and all the way across to the next building over with the water tower attached to it. At the back of the building here is a fenced off area, and this will be the last 2 possible locations of any secondary loot on the route that we'll take through the island. So take any photos of whatever might be in there, send them across to Pavel as you have done with all the others, and then we can move on to the communications tower from here. So once you're done, head to this shipping container here and hide on the other side of it just around this corner, as there may be a truck headed your way and you'll want to stay out of its way. You can see that by the bigger of the red dots. So as soon as that's gone past and the guard has turned around to go back to his original position, you'll be free to move back out from your cover. So head up here, and there are 2 bikes here. For some reason you won't be able to steal this one. I don't know why, it just never lets you do it. There is a camera over there that can sometimes look out in this direction here towards the sea. So instead we're going to steal this bike over here, and if the camera is looking out towards the sea, you'll probably need to back the bike up a little bit and turn it, just to avoid going straight through the vision cone. But whichever way it's looking, just completely avoid its vision, head along the coastline here again, and turn right just as you go past this first tree here. Stay up the top of this hill, and you'll need to then have a look at the pier just in front of you. So just in front of us here, down there is this pier with this lip here. We'll need to pull a wheelie just as we approach it, and if done correctly we'll fly straight over the water. But before you move, just have a look on the North Dock on your minimap and make sure that there is not a guard looking in the direction we need to go. You can see him here on the minimap, and if he is looking down in that direction, just wait for him to turn around and go away before you move on, or there's a good chance he'll see you. Once the coast is clear, you can then make your way to the pier, going as fast as you can, and remember, just pop a wheelie as you get to that lip and you'll fly straight across. Be very careful to the right, as there is a mooring point just underneath this crane, and if you hit it, this is going to happen. You'll drown the bike, and then you're going to have to go back and find another one. But if you've done it correctly, you'll be on this hill, so just come all the way up to here and just kind of stop in this slightly taller foliage. So up ahead is a guard tower, and the guard in that tower will have a tendency to look out to the field that we're currently sat in and out to sea. So if you're sat where I am, you won't be seen. We're going to be using this rock here as a launch pad to go right past the tower and avoid the guard. However, be very, very careful, because when he does turn around, he does give a cheeky look to where we're actually be heading, and if you go too soon, you do run the risk of jumping right in front of him as he turns around, and he'll be sent to the airstrip. So keep an eye on him here, and you'll see him turn around. He'll head around the guard tower, and as you see, as he gets to the end of the route, he gives one quick cheeky look. It's a split second, but it can cost you. So just let him look back into the main island. Then you can proceed forward, pick up as much speed as you possibly can, pull a wheelie, and if you've done it right, you'll send yourself straight up onto these rocks, onto these hills here. So carry on forward up to these bushes and slow down a little bit as you get here, because if you go too fast, you do run the risk of throwing the bike into the ocean. Next up ahead is this road, and there is a guard here, but he's not always here, and if he's not, it makes it a bit easier. Either way, it's not overly difficult to get past. Keep an eye on your minimap, make sure you're not heading into the vision cone of him or the camera, which you can do so by just cutting through here and avoiding both of them completely. Head up this road, come to the left of this truck, and then to avoid this next camera, just pull up this hill here by these bushes and go straight forward. There will be a truck that sometimes patrols here, so be mindful of that. You can either pop a wheelie over those rocks and try and jump the road and hopefully not crash into the pole, or you can just drive across the road, which is a lot easier. You don't have to worry about crashing. Once you're done, head up the hill and you'll be at the communications tower, which will be the final area we need to come to in order to scope out the primary loot of Cayo Perico. So a top tip when you get to the communications tower is if there is a guard on the minimap here, then the signal box will actually be up on the tower somewhere. But if he's not here, then the signal box will be on the ground floor, and it'll either be next to this door at this small shed here, but if it's not on this one, it'll be next to the door on the small shed right as you come in through the fence. You just make a hard right and hit that. Once you've located it, go up to the box and interact with it, and then you can finally start the hacking minigame to see what your primary loot is. So once you know what you're doing, this hacking minigame is actually fairly straightforward. You'll be presented with a target number at the top of the screen and 3 numbers down the left hand side and 3 symbols down the right hand side, which can be any combination of the 3 that you see here, and the number at the bottom is the number that you're currently at. So the top symbol that you see there, the square box with the line going down it, will equal whatever number you attach to it. The X will times whatever number you attach to it by 10, and that bottom symbol with the horizontal line with the 2 diagonals going through it will times whatever number you attach to it by 2. So once you've figured out what you need to do to get to the target number, just press your confirm button on a number, choose the relevant symbol, and then press the confirm button again to attach the number to the symbol. Once you've done it correctly and you meet the target number, you'll have then hacked the panel, and then you can start to look through the cameras and find out what primary loot you have in the compound of Cayo Perico. Once you're done, bring up the Sightseer app on your phone and it'll always drop you in at the same camera, which is the animal cages. Just mash right on the D-pad until you get to the basement camera, which is where your primary loot will always be located. Once you've got there, pan the camera to the left and your target will either be in the glass case in the middle. If it's not in the glass case, then continue to pan the camera left and there will be a guy right next to this safe, and that will mean that you have the bearer bonds as your primary target. Once you've done that, if you're playing single player, it's still worth going through the cameras to get to the office cameras. There are 2 there, as there can sometimes be paintings in the office, and if you get really lucky, there can be 2 paintings in Rubio's office, but it's incredibly rare that happens. If you're playing in multiplayer, carry on scanning through the cameras until you get to the final camera that will show you any loot. Your final camera will be the South Storage Camera 2, so once you've scoped that out, you can then exit the cameras as you don't need to do anything else with them from here, and then you'll be free to leave the island. If you haven't done so already, now would be a great time to unlock the main dock infiltration point and the drainage tunnel compound entry point, which will also give you a new prep mission that we're going to need to do to make things easier as well. If you've already unlocked both of those though, feel free to skip ahead to the timestamp on screen now. So to unlock the main dock, just climb all the way to the top of the communication tower and pull your map up. The main dock is pretty much right in the middle of the island, it's just here, so place a waypoint just near it but not inside of it. This will give you a good idea of where you need to be headed to next, and from the top of the tower you can actually see the main dock already. It's right ahead of us in the distance over there. Once you've got your bearings and you know where to go, jump off the tower and pull your parachute and head to your waypoint. Try not to land inside the main dock because you don't want to land in front of a guard or a camera or even a truck that you couldn't see coming because of the minimap not being there yet. So just land a little bit outside of it, and that will give you the time to look at the minimap and make sure you know where all of the guards are. So once you've landed, then just make sure the coast is clear before you head in. Once you're certain that it's safe, run into the main dock and head to these boats on the land here. You may need to jump to squeeze past them because you can get stuck sometimes, but just head towards the waterfront and Pavel will tell you need to take a photo of both the waterfront and the pier in the same photo. So try and take a photo that's similar to this and you should see that it's unlocked the main dock. It hasn't for me because I've already got it. It doesn't matter too much if you get caught by the guards after this, but just make sure you've got that photo sent if you do get caught. If you get caught, you'll only be sent to the airstrip anyway, which is actually going to help you because you can then just get back to the communications tower the same way we went last time, and from there it's a pretty straight shot to the compound. As you can see, the compound is right on the south end of the map here. You'll see the stuff that you've actually tagged up in the cameras there as well. The bike that you stole the first time round is not going to be there this time, so head up this sand road opposite the hangar, and again, don't worry about the guard here. It doesn't matter if you run past him. He's not going to alert anybody and he's not going to do anything if he sees you. Just make sure you don't try and run him over, and then just head all the way up this hill and grab the bike at the top. From there, you'll be exiting the airstrip the same way you did last time, following the same route that you took last time to get to the communications tower, and from there we'll move on to the compound. So as we approach the communications tower, we'll actually be heading around the bottom, but remember, if you had a guard at the bottom, you are going to need to give him a wide berth so that he doesn't see or hear you heading this way. But if the coast is clear or there is no guard, then it's even easier to get to the compound. So just head down the route that I took here and you'll see the compound just in the distance where all those buildings are. Keep heading down this hill and you'll eventually get to a fence that you won't be able to climb over or bypass in any way, short of going straight to the entrance of the compound, but that is guaranteed to get you seen. So instead, head down the hill to the end of this fence and just drop the bike in the ocean here. We're not going to need it again, so don't worry about drowning it, it's not a problem. All you'll need to do when you come up to the surface of the water, you can see the compound here with all these balconies and overhangs, so just swim towards them and get as close as you can, like I'm doing here. When you get relatively close, dive under the water by holding R1 on the PlayStation or RB on the Xbox, or whatever key you've got it binded to on PC. Swim under here, and when you get close enough, it'll tell you you've unlocked the drainage tunnel, which is just here. And that's it. That's all you need to do. You've unlocked the drainage tunnel. From here, if you need to get back to the airstrip, just drown yourself. You've done everything you need to do and it will take you back to the airstrip. So once you've done the hacking, just climb up to the first level of the comms tower, unless you had to go higher to find the box anyway. And then to get back to the airstrip, all you need to do is leap off the tower. Don't pull your parachute, just hit the floor and you'll be wasted. You will then appear back at the airstrip, all ready to leave Cayo Perico and carry on with the prep missions. So, you've scoped out the island And now you know what primary target you're going for, and also what secondary targets are available. So now would be a good time to plan in your head where you want to go come heist time to minimize your time on the island whilst maximizing your profit. So in order to do that, let's take a look at the values of each target, and these will be based on hard mode, which I'll explain how to activate at the end of the heist video. So let's start with the primary targets, and beginning with the Madrazo files. These will only be found the very first time you come and do the heist, which is the story version, which cannot be done in hard mode, and they are worth $1.1 million. After you've done that first heist, these will never appear again. So let's move on to the recurring targets, which are always chosen at random. The first one being the Cinsamito Tequila, which is $990,000. Up from there is the Ruby Necklace, which is worth $1.1 million. After that are the bearer bonds for $1,210,000, and finally the pink diamond at $1,430,000. Now technically there is another target that can pop up, but much like the diamonds from the Diamond Casino heist, this can only pop up if Rockstar are running a special event for it, which they don't do very often. And that would be the Panther statue, worth $2,090,000 before any secondary targets are even considered. Speaking of secondary targets, we will then look at them next. Now these are slightly different in the fact that you also have a bar when you come to the heist, which is how full your loot bag is, and every secondary target will fill it up by a slightly different amount. So starting with the least valuable secondary target, which is cash, which can net you anywhere between about $78,000 to $89,000 per stack and will fill up 25% of your bag. From there, and I should say I won't be calling some of these by their actual names from the game just because of YouTube censorship. So next up is the Grass, which is worth $145,000 to about $149,000 per stack and will fill your bag up by 37.5%. From there is the Artwork, which is worth $176,000 to about $199,000 per painting and will fill up 50% of your bag per painting. The next one up from there are the Cocoa Pops, and they will give you anywhere between $220,000 to $225,000 per stack and will also fill your bag by 50%. The last target is the Gold, which you cannot achieve in single player as they are always locked behind a door that requires 2 key cards, which you are not allowed to open in single player. But if you're doing this in multiplayer, the Gold is worth $328,000 to about $333,000 per stack and will fill up your bag by 66.7%, meaning if you're playing with just 2 of you, 3 lots of gold will be enough to completely fill your loot bags, which you will want to do because that is one of the things you need to do to get the Elite Challenge, which again we will talk about a little bit more on the heist video. With all of that in mind, it should be fairly obvious what you'll need to prioritize when you go for your secondary targets. So if you're playing in single player, obviously we'd rather have a bowl of Cocoa Pops or 2. From there, you then want to focus on the Grass, and if that's not available, your very last resort would be the cash. If you're lucky enough that there is a painting in Rubio's office, and say you only have 1 lot of Cocoa Pops somewhere on the island, then I'd say focus on grabbing that 1 bag of Cocoa Pops, and then go to the compound and grab the painting. It should fill your bag up and it will give you the best profit. But other than that, you pretty much from there should be able to figure out what you want to take to fill up your bag to get the best profit. So that's it for this video. In the next one, we'll be covering the prep missions, which ones you do and how to do them the easiest way. And then after that, we'll be moving on to the heist. So I will see you in the next video ready for the prep missions. Until then, have a good one.